this. Let's speak to Simon McGregor-Wood, who joins us now from Brussels. Good morning, Simon. So what do we know about what the Commission is going to say about visa-free travel to Turkey today?
Well, broadly, this being the deadline, May the 4th, we understand that the Commission in its daily briefing in a couple of hours here in Brussels will say that Turkey has done enough. And in response to those critics mentioned in that report that suggests that somehow the European Union is watering down the benchmark, so-called, all 72 of them, to allow the Turks into this process, the European Union officials are saying things like, we have not lowered our standards, Turkey has raised its game. And it is clear there's been some pretty frenetic activity in Ankara to try and meet as many of these criteria as possible. Will they meet all 72? No, probably not. The latest number we hear is 65. It's still a significant achievement if you consider that only a couple of weeks ago European diplomats were saying that Turkey had only met half of them. So there's clearly been a very big push from the Turkish side, because this is a crucial part, if you remember, of the European Union-Turkey migration deal. It was one of the main inducements for the Turks to start the process of stopping the illegal people trafficking and taking back failed asylum seekers from the Greek islands. That deal appears to be working, certainly from the European perspective. So it would seem the Europeans are willing to fulfill their side of the bargain as far as visa-free travel for Turkey is concerned.
And Simon, just lay out for us why this is so contentious, both on the European side and on the Turkish side.
Well, it's a sensitive area on both sides. Clearly, there are people in Europe, in the European Union, who are not comfortable with the idea of visa-free travel for Turkish citizens, all 79 million of them. It's particularly the case in France and Germany and the Netherlands, who have apparently sought to introduce into the regulation some kind of emergency brake. In other words, if we get too many, however you define that, Turks applying to come to the Schengen area for 3 months on this new visa-free system, we may be able to stop the process or reduce the numbers coming in. There's also concern about the extent to which the European Union appears to be bending the rules, according to some, because it is so fixated on keeping this migration deal alive. And it is quite clear from recent statements out of Ankara, from Prime Minister Davutoglu and others, there is pressure from Ankara to get this deal done, particularly on the visa issue. And there has been some suggestions from the Turkish side that unless they get this green light today, their commitments on the side of the migration deal may be withdrawn. It is clear that Europe's priority is to keep the migration deal in place, and therefore, as I say, we expect positive news for the Turks on this visa waiver deal later today.
And Simon, what else are we expecting to come from the Commission today?
Well, more discussion on the general issue of migration. We expect some proposals for the reform of the so-called Dublin regulations. These are the rules set whereby if you're an asylum seeker arriving in the European Union, you have to stay put in the country in which you first arrived to process your application. Clearly that system has broken down. Clearly that system has brought intolerable pressure on Greece and to a certain extent Italy as well. And the European Union realizes that that process needs to be reformed. The headline out of that we understand, there will be some details released later Wednesday, is that countries that do not participate in a sharing system for migrants and refugees may get slapped with pretty heavy fines. We're hearing as much as 250,000 euros per refugee. The other way of interpreting this is, let's say if you're Hungary and you don't want to participate in taking in refugees, you will be asked to contribute that amount of money for each refugee that you refuse, that money going to Greece and Italy to help them deal with the extraordinary burden of the numbers that they are currently dealing with. So that's going to be very contentious and controversial. Hopefully we'll get some more details of that. The European Union clearly fixating these days on this issue of mass migration, how to fix the current regulations to better deal with the enormous domestic political pressures there are in Europe over this issue.
Okay, Simon in Brussels, thanks as always.